and welcome to Chat with Gunner, episode 10. And I am here with a living legend in Chattanooga. That's what I call him. A guy that I used to hope that he would say my name on Friday nights on TV, that I would hope I would do something so good that he would just notice me a little bit to put me over, and that's Darrell Patterson.
Good to be with you, Gunner.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. My first recollection of Gunner Miller. You know, I did high school football sideline ramp up for, 30-something years. I remember 5 or 6 videos, 5 or 6 stories, 5 or 6 names. I remember a Gunner Miller, and I don't know who you guys were playing from East Ridge, but you were not only playing defense, you were a little running back. You killed somebody.
I know what you're talking about.
On a Friday night, and it was like, that video stuck in my head, and it was like, we got to look at that again. Look at that again. Look at that again.
Yeah, I can remember. I see the funny part about you saying that. That's how, like, I really know you knew me was because of that video.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was Notre Dame. It was my senior year.
You remember.
It was a broken play. They threw it off to the side. I caught it.
Yes.
I could have scored a touchdown if I juked this little DB.
But there was,
but
I'm not juking.
No, I'm not juking.
I'm a linebacker.
And I ran him over. I think I gave myself a concussion at that point. I threw up when I came off the sideline. But I remember you reacting pretty cool to that video.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a play and a name that I remember. Pumpy Tutors that played at Marion County. Another name that I remember. Just thankfully, I worked at an industry where you go through that, and there are certain things that you remember.
Right.
I don't remember where I parked my car, but those things I remember.
Well, I am humbled to be one of the ones that was remembered. A mixture of the name and the hit. That'll do. Well, dude, I'm so excited for you to come on here. I just wanted to sit down and talk to you because I haven't seen any interviews or read anything in depth that like kind of covers your entire story.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, it would be great just to have you get on here for an hour or so and just kind of shoot the breeze and see what happens.
Cool. Yeah.
So what got you into TV, radio? You said you were in radio first?
Radio.
Okay.
Started when I was in about 4th or 5th grade. I joined the 4-H club and got into public speaking in the 4-H club. And I love to stand up in front of a crowd and give speeches. I did it all over. I'm from Athens, so I did it at Kiwanis Club and all the JCs and that sort of thing. And about that same time, I developed a real keen interest in radio. Listened to radio all the time. Back in the day, we called it a transistor radio, and I had a transistor radio to my ear all the time. Even at night, I'd lay in bed and listen to WLS radio in Chicago, Dick Biondi, Art Roberts, and all the other greats. Listen to those guys and just fantasized about how I would love to do that. I'd love to be on radio, playing the music and talking and doing that kind of stuff. So as I got older, it was like I'm serious about this. I'm really going to look into it. So I found out this was would have been in the 60s. You had to be 16 years old to get a 3rd class broadcast license to be on radio. So when I got 16 years old, I took the test and got my radio license. And as soon as I got the little postcard in the mail that said I had passed all 3 of the elements that you had to pass, took it down to the general manager of the radio station in Athens, and I went on the air that night at 7 o'clock. I had already done my prep work because I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I would go visit. We had a disc jockey there in Athens named Johnny Perkle, who is a legend in the Athens and Knoxville area to this day and is a real good friend of mine. I would watch Johnny do his show. His brother Jim Perkle worked at the radio station, and Jim was actually the one that trained me. By training, I mean Jim said, there's a turntable, there's a microphone, here's your board, I'll see you in an hour. That was the training I got because I'd already done it, and so I got into radio. In high school at McMinn County High School, we had a distributive education program, industrial cooperative training ICT program. You could get into those programs and you could work half a day essentially and go to school half a day. You didn't have to take a full load because you got credit for the distributive education course which I did. I signed the radio station on at 5 o'clock in the morning, worked until 10, then walked to school and finished my course. And fifth period, I'm in phys ed, which was football practice.
Right.
And it was up at 4 o'clock the next morning to sign the station on at 5, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I got the bug, and I never got rid of it. Moved to Chattanooga in 1973, still working in radio at WDOD Radio, and the people at Channel 9 in 1974 asked me if I wanted to come and do the 11 o'clock sports at Channel 9, in addition to my radio job. So I had 2 jobs there for a while doing the 11 o'clock sports. I was doing UTC's basketball games on radio.
Okay.
When it came basketball season, I couldn't do the 11 o'clock sports gig on Channel 9 because I was not in town. I was traveling with the Mocs doing the ball games. So I backed off from television, and then in 1975 they called me back and asked me, would you want this job full time, because Bill McAfee had decided, he was doing sports at the time, and McAfee had decided to move on to something else. He eventually went into politics and was state representative for many years. So I moved in and filled his shoes, and as they say, the rest is history. From 1975 until 2013, I was right there at Channel 9 doing sports.
Same place, doing the same thing every day.
Yeah, we finally got a new building in 2000, but everything else was, same thing. A lot of the same people that I worked with throughout, Bob Johnson, Don Welch, we all went there in 1975 right around the same time. I worked with them until I retired, until Bob, Parkinson's disease, got him off of the air a year or two before I went off the air, and then Don was still working there when I retired, and then unfortunately the Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia took him away from us.
Right. Ah, man.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's a fun story, man. That's 40 years.
Yeah.
Right at it.
Yeah.
Is it right at 40 years?
39 years at Channel 9, I guess. From.
You didn't have one more in you. You couldn't have made it 40.
I didn't want to. And I had told him the last contract I signed, I told him I'm out of here on the day before my 65th birthday, because I understand I can get Social Security and Medicare and do all that stuff at age 65, and I'm going to go there.
And you're taking that ticket.
I've already looked. I've got a 401k. I've got all this other. I got everything I need, so I'm going to be okay. And it's not that I got tired of a rat race or anything else. It's just that I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
I left with no regrets. On December 12th, 2013, when I pulled out of the parking lot after the 11 o'clock show that night, I didn't look in my rear view mirror and say, man, did I make the right decision? Now, that was December the 12th. About the middle of January, the weather was not really good. And I walked from window to window to window in my house, looking outside, wanting to be on a golf course somewhere.
Right.
But the weather was not good. And many times I said, man, did I ever make the wrong decision? I should be working. But then the weather warmed up. I got outside. I got on the golf course, and it's like, I'm good. I made the right decision.
Then the rest is history from there, too.
The rest is history.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm excited to talk to you just because not many people in Chattanooga do you just know their face, know their name, and not ever really get a chance to see them in person and talk to them. You know, I've seen you a few times, and but we never really had like an hour-long conversation.
No.
So, and I just feel like this platform for me, that's what I want. I just want to be able to talk to guys like you and just get to know you a little bit better. You know,
you're in a real good position because it's. In the 39 years I worked at Channel 9, and even before that, when I was in radio, I was broadcasting ball games. I was doing play-by-play of the Mocs football and basketball games. Did Rossville High School football game the first year I was here. In Athens, I did McMinn after I finished my playing career. Was broadcasting McMinn County High School basketball games, girls and boys, doing the football games. Did Tennessee Wesleyan College basketball play-by-play. So I was involved with athletes, with athletic type events, so it was natural for me to go into sports. I could have gone, I actually had an opportunity when I went to Channel 9 to go into news and be a news anchor or reporter or something like that. And the late Bill Nash, who was my boss and general manager at WDOD, told me, he said, if you've got a choice here. If you go take the job at Channel 9, I may be watching you on TV for the rest of my life or the rest of your career. If you take this news job somewhere else, you may be back over here asking for your radio job back in a little while, because you should be doing sports. That's what you should do. It was great advice from him, and fortunately for me, it worked out. But meeting people, getting to know people, interviewing people, like after Mox games, I'd go, I'm coming to Gunner Miller because I know I can do an interview with you. You get this thing in your mind of which of these players can I talk to?
Right.
Which ones can actually give you an intelligent answer to a question, and condense it to 20 to 30 seconds. I don't want war and peace.
Right. Got to know your role.
Exactly. Give me a soundbite, because you watch TV, you know what sound bites are. They're 20 to 30 seconds, and you should be able to say that. And I've always thought that it would be a really good idea. Even in high schools now, they have TV stations or whatever, little make-believe TV stations in high schools. Mm-hmm. They should bring their athletes in and have them do segments like that and basically teach them how to do a broadcast interview.
Right.
It would help them along as they progress. You look today at even NFL or NBA athletes, they don't know how to do an interview. They don't know how to give you a soundbite that can encapsulate a ball game. That's why you see the same people over and over and over and over again, because these are the people that reporters know they can go to Gunner Miller, they can go to B.J. Coleman, they can go to Jacob Huseman, they can go to these people and get a good soundbite out of it.
Yeah, and I enjoyed being that at UTC. Yep. I was that at Eastridge as well, and it kind of prepped me a little bit because I was – in high school, it's more about who was the star of the game.
Yep.
That's who's speaking.
Yep.
So I think it kind of helps those guys go to the next level. But, yeah, at UTC, for the longest time, it was BJ, it was me, it was Jacob. That was kind of the procession of it. You have to have those 20 to 30 second. What's somebody at home want to hear from a UTC football player that's going to get them to come to the game or give them a little summary of what just happened?
A funny story. When Mack McCarthy, I mentioned you and BJ and Jacob, and I could mention other players who were Darrell's favorites through the years, people that I like to talk to. Coaches, the same thing. I have a list of coaches that I absolutely avoided because they were, not because I didn't like them or anything, they just, for my business, they were not a real good interview. Sometimes it was like pulling teeth. There were others. You could ask them any question you want to, and they're going to give you a good answer. Mack McCarthy was possibly the best. Mack, like us, and Mack had a background during his Auburn days and that sort of thing, and he dabbled into journalism a little bit, so he knew how to do this. He knew how to talk. He knew how to conduct an interview from this end of the microphone and from that end of the microphone as well. We had routinely, before the Mocs played a basketball game on a Monday night or a Wednesday night or something like that, I would go by the arena, meet a photographer there, get a little interview with Mack about the game that night, and at 6 o'clock we'd do a little preview. Well, it got to the point where Mack had other things that he needed to do at 3 o'clock, so it was going to be maybe a little later or whatever else. So it got to the point where I would go ahead and go to the TV station. I would write my script, my preview of the game for that night, and we get a photographer available at 4 or 4:30. I hand the photographer the script. He goes to UTC, finds Mack, gives Mack the script, and Mack would insert the soundbite. He would read the script to see, okay, this is where you're going, you need a soundbite. Okay, you're rolling 3, 2, 1, and would give the photographer a soundbite to go right there. And that worked for, I don't know, half the season or something like that, and then Mack became Mack. Rewrote my scripts.
Uh-oh.
He would send back a different script from the one that I sent over. And he did it, he started out doing it as a joke, and it got to the point where I would tell Mack, you write the story to begin with.
I'll tell it.
There's no need for me to take 20 minutes to write this story when you're going to rewrite it and do stuff like that. But Mack was one that you always loved talking to.
Right.
It's a good interview. Buddy Nix was another one. Buddy, to this day, is a great, great friend of mine. Never ask him a question that he wouldn't answer, that he shied away from. Joe Morrison, who was the first college football coach I ever worked for when he was at UTC.
Yeah.
Joe came from New York. I mean,
Right.
played for the Giants. He kind of, when he came here, he kind of had a bad taste in his mouth for media because he got burned a little bit in New York with the Giants. New York media, imagine that.
Yeah.
He and I had a great relationship. I went every Wednesday night. I would do my Mox football preview. There was an old racquetball center over where, right beside where the arena is now, and that's where they would practice on Wednesday night. And after my supper break, I would, on the way back, I'd stop in there and do my interview with Joe for that game. Well, I get over there one night, and Joe decides he wanted to do an interview with Darrell about how we go about, we did the coaches show, so we were at every game shooting video and everything else. So Joe did the interview that night on how we covered the game for the coaches show and everything. And those are things that you remember about different people that you've come across and that you've interviewed that are in that position that I remember to this day. And Joe Morrison, coached here in the mid-'70s, so that's a memory that's been there for a long time. Yes.
So is there a list of people you didn't want to interview?
Yeah, we won't go into that.
We won't go into that. Okay,
we won't go into that. But the list is so long of coaches and players that I read. Benny Monroe, legendary coach up at Cleveland High School, and before that at McMinn High School. I'm from Athens. Benny played at McMinn County High School. And when they named the field at Cleveland, Benny has been a great friend of mine. The last year that I worked in Athens doing play-by-play for McMinn County High School in 1972, Benny Monroe was the head football coach there. So Benny and I had a long, long relationship. When they called me and asked me if I would come to Cleveland and MC the ceremonies to name Benny Monroe Stadium at Cleveland High School, I figured I need to come up with some Benny Monroe stories. So I came up with one that has stuck, and I've used it many, many times, is that my earliest childhood memory is of my dad carrying me in his arms to watch Benny Monroe play quarterback at McMinn County High School.
Really?
Benny always gives me grief for saying that, and I finally said, well, no, that story is not entirely true. I could actually walk. Dad didn't have to carry me,
Yeah.
but that I did. The first football game I ever remember going to see was Benny Monroe playing quarterback at McMinn. And I don't know how old I was, probably 9, 10 years old, something like that.
That's cool first memories, though.
Yeah.
First memories of, like, your first sporting events and stuff like that. I don't even know what mine is, to be honest with you. I don't have an idea there. But, so, retirement. How's that? Let's talk about that. Everybody knows everything else. How's retirement?
I love it. I like I said, I had no regrets. The last show I did, it was like wrap it up, put a bow on it, and I'm out of here. I'm moving on to the next chapter in my life. I wanted to travel, go do a lot of things. I haven't done as much of that as I would like to. Yeah. There's still obligations that I have here. I still do some commercial work for radio and television that I kind of keeps my foot in the door as far as the business is concerned. And I'm in a golf group of about 20 of us that play golf twice a week.
Okay.
So Monday and Thursday, I'm going to be on a golf course somewhere, weather permitting, playing golf. Been involved in our homeowners association in Eagle Bluff where I live. Been doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So I stay busy. I'm on the go a lot.
Right. That's good.
I don't. My butt is not a place to sit on.
So you're not retired and hanging out at the house.
No, I don't.
You're living life.
I've seen too many people retire and just quickly go downhill.
Yes.
I did not want to do that, and I'm not going to do that.
That's
As
smart.
long as there's breath in this body and a heart beating in this chest, I'm going to be doing something.
Right. That's awesome.
Even if it's I enjoy mowing the yard.
Yeah.
It's a couple of hours of peace and quiet, nothing but a lawnmower, going in your head. And I mow slowly.
Yeah.
I'm not in a hurry to get
Right.
done. So,
Yeah.
I'm cool. I love working in the yard. Little things like that. And I love experiencing things that I don't want to say I got cheated out of them. Gunner, I love sitting in front of the TV at night, watching TV at night. I don't to this day know who shot JR.
I feel you.
I never watched the show.
Yeah.
There's so many, and I thanks to Netflix and other things on TV, you can go back and watch old shows and stuff like that. I like doing that. A lot of shows today that I'm into that I like watching. I love drama.
Yeah.
And I love watching TV. I worked in TV. I didn't watch TV.
Right. Yeah,
if I watched TV, I watched a ball game.
Yeah. For work.
Yeah, for work.
Yeah.
And I go to Mox games. I go to Mox football games. I'm a proud season ticket holder now of Mox football.
That a baby?
Rusty Wright's the man.
Go Mox.
Yeah,
love Rusty.
Yeah,
I'm going to get Rusty on here. He doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to get him.
Rusty has coached at UTC off and on for 40 years now. I think he was there. He was there as a player when I first came to Chattanooga.
He was there as a player, and then he was there as a GA.
Yeah.
And then he was there as like a tight ends coach.
Yeah.
And then he went away.
Right, and came back and went away again and came back again.
Yep.
But he's kind of Rusty, and I've joked to him and Buddy Nix both about it. They are neighbors in Council Fire.
Are they really?
Buddy never left Council Fire when he got fired at UTC. He worked for the Buffalo Bills for years, lived in Chattanooga. Now he had an apartment in Buffalo that he stayed in because Diane said, I love you, buddy, but I'm not moving to Buffalo.
Right. I don't blame her.
Moved to San Diego? No, Diane stayed in Council Fire. Same thing with Rusty. They bought a house in Council Fire, I guess, when he was on Russ's staff at UTC, and he left and got a job at Georgia State. And
his wife
stayed here, and his daughter stayed here, and now his daughter's in Nashville
Great
at Belmont.
basketball
A great
player.
athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
She got good genes from maybe the other side of the family.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
But we love Rusty.
Yeah, so when Rusty he came in, he was my linebacker coach my senior year at UTC.
Yeah.
But he had recruited me at Miami, Ohio, because he knew my brother-in-law from UTC when he played in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then we'd go down to see Rusty at Georgia State in the in-between. And when the other head coach job came up, when Russ first left,
Right.
I was pretty vocal about this whole
A lot
deal.
of people were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people stayed quiet and just politically correct. I wasn't. I was like, somebody from the news that knows me, come find me and let me talk about this guy because he does not deserve this coaching job.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we would go hang out with Rusty in that in-between. I thought he should have got the job then.
Yeah.
If not him, Coach Durden, I thought he would have been good. Or Will Healy, who, guess what? All three people are doing pretty good right now. Or just keep Coach Huseman. That was my whole thing.
How many times has Tony Ball's name come up at UTC?
Yeah, Tony Ball. I mean,
Ball,
how long was he at Georgia?
6-7 years at
Yeah,
Georgia.
he was a running back coach at Georgia.
Yeah.
And then where's he at now?
He just recently was hired at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
He's the wide receivers coach now at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, his name actually came up when Huseman got hired because I thought Tony was going to be the guy there. But
yeah, when Russ came, it was interesting when he came. When Richmond came here, and Russ is one that we did stories on. I did interviews when he was a player at UTC, so I knew Russ.
Right.
When Richmond came here to play in the national championship game, we go over to do interviews, and you give the media people. This is an NCAA event, so you're not working with local, the UTC people who you want to talk to.
Yeah.
So you talk to the NCAA person, and I said, I'd like to talk to Russ Huseman, and they went like, he's what, defensive coordinator at Richmond? You want to talk to him? Yeah, that's who I want to talk to. You don't want the head coach? You don't want the quarterback? No, I want Huseman. And Russ, they finally rounded him up and brought him into the interview room, and Russ comes in and it's like, Darrell, what are you come here, we got to talk about this UTC job.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about this UTC job. No
right
way.
now.
We got a championship game coming up, and I'm not talking But it was, off camera. It was like, or you're staying here through the weekend. I understand through Sunday. Well, as it turned out, he had an interview on Sunday and got the job on Monday. So, yeah, that was Russ is another one that you have good memories of, and that's one of the memories of Russ is trying to put him on a spot at the national championship game, knowing better.
Yeah, trying to put him on a spot anywhere is tough.
Yes,
But I love Coach Huseman.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that was. So my dad was real tough on me coming up, and I respected him for that because he got the best out of me. Yeah. He knew that I wanted to be good, so he'd get the best out of me. He'd push my buttons. Coach Huseman was the only other coach I've ever had to really be able to do that, to like treat me kind of like a dad a little bit. And God, he used to get into me. I thought he didn't like me there for like the first 3 years, but he loves me now, so that's all good.
Yeah, there's another story, another guy that you know from UTC, a guy named Mike Royster.
Oh, yeah.
Been there forever. Mike actually, I think Joe Morrison actually hired Mike as like equipment manager that long ago. That's how long he's been there. Maybe not exactly that long, but that's how long Mike and I go back. We had a new reporter, a new sports guy come to town once. A guy named Steve Wrigley, who went on to work for CNN and worked for others. He's in Nashville, I think, now. But Steve comes in, and I wanted Steve to go do a job on, with Royster, and go do a story on Royster or whatever. So Steve comes back kind of with his head tucked between his tail, and he says, "Who is this guy that you sent me to interview? He's really not a really nice guy." He stayed. I looked at Steve square in the eye, and I said, "He likes you."
Oh, yeah.
That's the way Mike is. If he likes you, he's going to jump into you.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's going to test you.
He is.
He's going to test you.
And if you fail the test, he may not have anything to do with you after that.
If you back down from him, you've lost his respect.
You come back.
Yeah, you've got to come back.
Yeah.
That's the ones he respects the most. Me and my brother-in-law talk about that all the time. And I was like, not that I was ever mean to him, but I never took anything from him.
Mike is such a character. He is such a character. I love him to death. He's one that you talk about the old. Not saying Mike's an old timer, but he's an old timer. Mike knows where the bodies are buried. That's a term that you use for somebody that's been around for a while and he knows the chapter and he knows the verse and he knows where the bodies are buried. Mike is that. If you want to know the scuttlebutt on anything that's happened at UTC in the last 40 years, Mike knows.
Oh, yeah.
He may not tell you, but he knows.
Yeah, his office down there in the arena is awesome.
Yeah,
it's all the old memorabilia. It's all the old football helmets. Every one that we've ever had is
every
up there.
helmet UTC has ever had is there.
All the main articles of all the main players that came through.
Yeah.
It's really something to see. Somebody should do a story on him down there because I'm sure he doesn't have many more years left at UTC.
No, he's probably going to hang it up in the next few years.
But they've been saying that for 10 years.
But you look down on the sidelines at any UTC football game, there's Mike. He's either walking up and down the sideline or he's sitting on the golf cart over in the end zone.
Yep, in the shade.
Go to the basketball game, he's sitting up there, punching the buttons on the lights or the scoreboard or whatever he does. I'm not sure that those buttons are hooked to anything.
But he does it. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to see Mike again this past year. I did play-by-play with Jim Reynolds for a UTC game. My debut. We did it over at was it not Campbell? What's the orange school they're playing these days? Mercer. Yeah.
Roy D. Mercer High School. Yes.
We went to Mercer and did that, and that was fun. First time doing that. Jim Reynolds is great.
Yes, he is.
Talking about a guy that's been doing it for a long time, and the way he had everything set up, I mean, he is a true professional.
Consummate professional.
I was looking at, he's been doing it, I guess, 40 years, or a little over 40 years maybe. He's like in the top 5 of broadcasters as far as.
I don't know the exact year, but it's like 79 or 80 when JR came to Chattanooga.
And he's been here the whole time. And he's like top 5 in, I guess, play-by-play or what would that be called? Yeah, play-by-play. That's crazy that we've kept him that long.
Yes.
You would think he would be somewhere bigger, but I mean, we're lucky to have him.
Actually, the story, when JR came here, he was literally passing through town. He was up in Illinois somewhere, and he was going to go to Florida on vacation. And he had an interview for a job, I think, in Florida. And he thought, well, I'll stop in Chattanooga. And he stopped here. He really liked it. He liked UTC. He liked the people at the radio station. And instead of, I'm not even sure he interviewed for the job in Florida or whatever, But I mean, he took the job here, and he's loved it. It's home to him.
Yeah. He was another one I really loved talking to after the games, just to see, it's just fun to like have a decent game and be able to talk to one of you guys. It was like the honor of, having a good game, or sometimes not even having a good game, just being one of the guys that actually put together a sentence.
Yeah.
Exactly. I found myself in that situation.
Well,
a lot.
It's for us. It's from this end of the microphone. It's hard to find a player, particularly at the high school level. Mm-hmm. College, it's a little easier. Professional, it's piece of cake. When that team has been on the losing side, mm-hmm. You need to be real careful of which players you try to talk to. You don't want, if you are the quarterback and you threw the pick six that cost you the district or the region or the state championship game or something.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a hard job for us, because we need to talk to you.
Yeah.
We need to give you a little bit of space to digest or whatever, and then we need to be really, really careful of how we ask a question to get a response. And sometimes I've done this. You might ask the same question 5-6 times, phrased differently,
right,
to get the answer that you want, that this is it. This is what I'm using on the air. This is the soundbite that I want.
Right.
And it's difficult to do that when you've lost a game.
Yeah.
Any loss is hard,
mm-hmm.
as you know, but when you lose the game.
Yeah.
But, that's the one thing. In sports, we keep score and we keep statistics. In news, not so much.
Yeah.
A lot of news is opinion, or the way you look. You can look at a certain news story maybe 2 or 3 different ways.
Right.
If you won the game 21-14, you won the game 21-14. It's right up there on the scoreboard. Mm-hmm. It's going to be in the record books. You can look it up years down the line and see that it was 21-14, mm-hmm. and that somebody had so many yards rushing, and so you keep statistics, you keep score. Dave Staley said that a long time ago, and I picked that up from Dave. In sports, we keep score.
Yeah.
And it's you have, from us, you have to report on that game, as heartbreaking as it might be. At some point you have to realize, and you will, and you did, the sun will come up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And there's 10 million people in China that really don't care.
Right.
So keep everything in perspective. Yeah, it's big. It's lost. But life goes on.
Right.
And sometimes reporters are not sympathetic enough to the person they're talking to maybe get a feel for what's going on in their head at that time. I've never, I don't know that I've ever encountered that, because I try to be sympathetic, because I've been there. I've done that. I've played the game. Mm-hmm. Not to the degree you did, but I know what it feels like. I know, and as a fan, when UTC loses a ball game, I'm as heartbroken as anybody.
Right.
And if somebody just screws up and does something that's wrong, I'm as upset as anybody is. But I don't have to go ask them questions anymore.
Yeah, I guess you can emotionally trigger somebody.
Yes.
To where you get the response you don't want.
You can.
Then you have no material to use for your show.
Exactly.
So you got to ask them the right things. That's smart.
And back to people that you remember and everything, I would be remiss in this show if we didn't mention Terrell Owens. Probably the number one athlete that's ever come out of Chattanooga.
Yeah.
You could argue that point. There have been others. Reggie White was pretty doggone good.
Right.
And Reggie was a real, real good friend of mine. So was T.O. I never had an issue with T.O. in an interview from his days at UTC to this day. Granted, I wasn't doing a whole lot of stuff with T.O. when he was in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of teammate he was in the NFL. I think to a large degree, T.O. got a bad rap.
I agree.
His persona changed. Duh. Whose didn't?
Yeah.
And if you're in his position, you look at his background. I mean, his childhood. Look at who he was, who he became, and the baggage that he might or might not have, because we are the sum total of everything we've ever been and everybody we've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
He is too.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's one of the top 3 NFL wide receivers ever.
And 2 of them play on the same team.
He has the statistics to prove it.
Yeah.
Did he go about his NFL Hall of Fame thing correctly? I can't.
It's all
I
an
can't
opinion.
be the judge of that.
It's all an opinion.
He did what he wanted to do, I think. And what he wanted to do is come to Chattanooga and do his Hall of Fame thing here. I was there.
I was there.
I don't have a problem with that.
I thought it was cool.
We put him in our Chattanooga Sports Hall of Fame last year. To get in our Hall of Fame, you have to be 45 years old. T.O. turned 45 the day that our board actually voted on the Hall of Fame class for that year. His birthday's in early December.
Okay.
We talked about this at our board meeting, and it was like, how old is he? Well, he's 45. This is his birthday. He'd be 45. He was 45 today or whatever. So we vote him into the Hall of Fame. When you vote somebody into the Hall of Fame, different people on the board are assigned. There's 25 of us on the board. Okay, you call this person, you get in touch with this person, let them know that they're going into the Hall of Fame. The banquet is at the Trade Center on whatever date in late February or early March.
Yeah.
Want to make sure they're there if they need tickets for family or whatever. So I said, okay, I'm the one that nominated T.O. I mean, it was an easy nomination. He's in the NFL,
Right.
Hall of Fame. He's not in our, I mean, he wasn't at that time, he wasn't in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Right.
They hadn't voted him in yet. But he's going to be in our Hall of Fame because he's such a dramatic impact on Chattanooga while he was here.
Yeah.
And it's not only, he didn't have a sensational career at UTC. He had junior year actually better stats than his senior year was, but he was good enough. He got in the NFL and he had a great career, and so he's deserving of the Hall of Fame. So I get in touch with T.O., let him know what the date is. So I'm working with him directly and then indirectly with the lady that handles his appearances and that sort of thing. And it was like, he's in Los Angeles. I don't know that if he's going to come to Chattanooga for this or not, but wanted him to know he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. T.O. says, I'll be there. I will be there. Kept checking back with him and with his assistant. Yes, he's planning to be there. And in early February, he's going to be here. So we're preparing for him to come here. He gets in touch with us and says, I'm going to need 2 tables. That's 16 people that he was bringing up with from his family in Alabama to see him go into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
We don't do acceptance speeches in the Chattanooga Sports Hall of Fame anymore. It's just a bio and video and that sort of thing. But we felt like that night, if T.O. wants to say something, everybody knows who T.O. is. We've got a record crowd of over 500 people in the Trade Center that night, and I'm sure some of them came to see T.O.
Yeah.
So I went to him. I said, T.O., if you want to say something after the thing is over, take a couple or 3 minutes and do that. So he sits on his phone and wrote, a speech or made some notes of things he wanted to say. He congratulated the other people, went in the Hall of Fame. It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not the T.O. that got the bad rap to some degree when he was in the NFL.
Right.
It's like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just trying to do his thing. I mean, in the NFL, there's so many great athletes and great players. You've got to brand yourself, and he did.
He did.
And sometimes branding is with controversy. And
he never had. T.O. does not have a criminal record. He was never arrested for anything.
Right.
Never had a drug issue.
Right.
He had some off-the-field problems personally, which is, who doesn't? There but for the grace of God go I, let he that is without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
All of that sort of thing. But, the rap of him. I was not a teammate of his, so I don't know. There are a lot of former teammates of his that speak very highly of him.
Mm-hmm.
Some that don't. But T.O. is he's one that that through the years is one that you remember.
Yeah.
In fact, this is hard for if you were around at the time. First couple of years that T.O. played for UTC. Actually, Bobby Johns recruited him. He was not recruiting T.O. when he went down to, I can't think of the name of the town in Alabama that he's from. He was recruiting one of his teammates.
Really?
And saw the video, saw the film, and called Buddy Nix and said, we need to look at this guy.
Yeah.
So they pretty much signed him sight unseen, come on over here and play. And he became a good player. He was a dual sport player. He played basketball. And for the first 2 years, maybe 3 here, we called him Terrell Owens. And he sort of bashfully, seriously, at Basketball Media Day before his senior season, Mack McCarthy came to us in the media and said T.O. would prefer if you called him Terrell. And we're like, why? Well, that's the way his name is really pronounced.
So he let it go 4 years.
Let it go. I mean, 3 for 2. I asked Mac. We've called him Terrell for 3 years. We've been mispronouncing his name. Well, no, it wasn't a big thing to him, but
It's got to be
bashful.
Got to be a decent guy. He played with my brother-in-law at UTC, so I was able to be, on the floor I went with him to the Hall of Fame speech. But it was cool to have him come to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Kind of the first guy to do something like that and be a trendsetter. And maybe more guys will go to their alma maters and give some speeches.
And you had a bigger crowd there for that than you have for Mock's basketball games.
Yeah. Attendance at UTC sporting events is, that's kind of up in the air. That was what we always tried to fight when I was there playing, was always trying to get people to show up to games. And I don't know how you do it.
Personally, I think it starts with the students.
I agree.
And I think that's I don't know how you fix that. I have done segments on it when I was on the air. I have literally gone on the air and chewed people out for not going to football and basketball games.
Yeah.
I mean, they had pretty good crowds the Sweet 16 year, but the arena has been sold out twice.
Stephen Curry was there
Both
once.
No, that was not a sellout.
Was it not?
No.
Okay.
Sellout for the University of Tennessee game,
Okay.
which was the opener in the Roundhouse, and then about 3 weeks later when Michael Jordan and that bunch from North Carolina came in, that game was sold out. There were some Marshall games along the way, the big basketball rivalry in the day, East Tennessee in the day, but it was 9,000, 10,000 maybe. A Georgia Tech tournament game, I think, one year is probably the third highest attendance in the whole thing, and it's like shy of 11,000. I don't think it should be full every night, but even the atmosphere is not what it should be.
Right. I agree.
And it's not at football games.
No.
It's when Russ was here and when the Mocs were going to the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs, you have 8,000 at that stadium for a football game on a Saturday afternoon on a beautiful day. That in a town whose population in the standard metropolitan statistical area is close to 1 million, and you got 8,000. I got a lot of Tennessee fans, a lot of Alabama fans, a lot of Georgia fans that just won't go to UTC.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So I can tell you this, from being on the field, the peak for UTC fandom, I would think, was my redshirt freshman year, the homecoming game against Georgia Southern.
Yep.
We beat them.
Yep.
We had about 18,000 people there, which is the second biggest crowd since the opener of Finley Stadium.
That's the only sellout there for a UTC game.
And the only time ever that both sides were pretty much filled up. And in the fourth quarter, with about 3 minutes left, the cheerleaders started a chant with the crowd, and they had one side chanting blue, one side chanting gold, and it was actually like rocking the arena.
Yeah.
The most electric I've ever been in that arena. We won that game, and then it was 13,000, 12,000, 14,000 for that year.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that year, died off.
Yes.
And I don't know, that year wasn't even our best year. Every year from that, the next 6 years were great.
Yes.
But it didn't make any sense. But I think you're right. Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, all these teams around us, all these SEC teams, the people think that that's real football. They don't associate UTC as being real football,
No.
which drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's the small college stigma, which UTC has always been and is.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of criticism of Southern, UTC should not be in the Southern Conference because nobody cares about the Southern Conference. Duh. I think App State was in the Southern Conference when they won at Michigan.
Yep.
Georgia Southern, pretty daggone good national championship runs.
Yep.
Southern Conference dominated when it was called Division II football. Now it's FCS.
Right.
It's a little bit different. Southern Conference is not as dominant as it once was, but UTC is still playing for a national championship.
Yeah.
Go support them. This is our team. Well, they don't recruit local players. When's the last time you looked at a roster? Last year's quarterback was a kid named Nick Tiano.
Yeah, pretty local.
Yeah, he lives here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I mean, not, right prior, but Jacob Huseman.
Yeah, there was that Huseman guy. He played at, Baylor, I think?
And
yeah,
who was the quarterback for that? B.J. Coleman.
I think it was B.J. Coleman.
Who was the little in-between quarterback? Terrell Robinson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They recruit local players. Russ told me this a long time ago, and even Buddy before him. And it was kind of like Mack McCarthy, the same thing in basketball. There was a kid several years ago at Baylor. I'm real careful. Yes, Baylor. His name was Jimmy Braddock. He was a really good basketball player. Mm-hmm. He wound up playing in North Carolina. He was a point guard on the Michael Jordan team.
Okay, yeah.
Mack, Murray, whoever the coach was then was like, are you recruiting Braddock? No. We have told him if the Carolina thing falls through, he can come and play at Chattanooga.
Yeah.
When you've got a Reggie White, a outstanding athlete who's being recruited by Alabama and by Tennessee and by Ohio State, Von Bell, there was no way Von Bell, after the career he had at Ridgeland High School, was going to go to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
He goes to Ohio State. He's playing in the NFL now. You contact those people and you let them know, if you want to come to Chattanooga, we will have a spot for you.
Yeah.
But they go recruit the players that can play here and that will play here and become good football players and good basketball players.
Yeah.
And good wrestlers, good athletes. UTC is a really, really good school for athletics and has been for a long, long time. I don't know where you go and whose fault. I think part of it is a marketing problem at UTC and has been for a long time. They have never gotten a real identity on how to market the product. Mm-hmm. I think they've done a pretty good job. But if you're only getting 8,000 people, 9,000 at a football game on Saturday afternoon, you might want to consider, giving tickets away.
Yeah.
Give 5,000 tickets away. You put 13,000 in there, and maybe some of the 5,000 that you give away will come back again and again and again.
Maybe the 5,000 you give away is to high school students or to
exactly.
people, to
exactly
like people that are playing sports, maybe football players. Maybe every high school football player should have a ticket at the game.
I'm sure Mark Wharton has gone down that road, and athletic directors before him I know have.
Yeah.
You need to put butts in the seats.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You're going to sell them. They're going to pay you to park there. They're going to buy a cold drink and a dog, and make a little concession money while you're there, and maybe
get a fan, maybe come back
and buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes money to make money.
Yeah. It sure does.
Yeah.
Got to give some things away to get some things.
Yeah, and I'm in the consultant business now since I retired, but nobody will listen to me.
Right?
Yeah,
They should.
not a very good consultant apparently.
That's all right. Well, you was talking earlier about also just trying to stay healthy in retirement. You said you get up and you walk on the treadmill.
I got an hour routine a day on the treadmill. I don't run. I can't because of a bad knee and a bad hip and other. I'm 71 years old, so I don't get around like I used to.
Right.
But I do an hour. Just put my headphones on, listen to the music that I've put together.
Yeah.
Try to keep pace with that, and try to keep the heart pumping, and try to keep the muscles moving. Folks, trust me, as you get older, you'll have muscles ache that you didn't even know you had muscles there.
Keep those joints lubricated up.
You got it. You do that a little bit.
I've stumbled across the gym a few times. I try to keep looking like I could at least still play. That's my goal. Whenever I come back to UTC, I want somebody to say, "You look like you can still play."
You were a linebacker, weren't you?
Yeah, I want them to. I don't want them to say, "You look like a running back." No, I got to bulk up a little bit. I'm always gonna be a linebacker now. I didn't want to run the ball unless I caught it on the defense, which I did. But yeah, man, that's fun. We got anything else?
You've covered my career. Covered, we talked about the players that I've been fortunate to cover. Covering. I talked a lot about covering, UTC and covering high school sports here. I was fortunate in my job to. I never got to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I was a good guy, and I let Dave Staley go to Atlanta and cover the when the Titans were in the Super Bowl in Atlanta. It was like, I figured I've been there, I've done that. I haven't been to a Super Bowl, but I didn't feel like I could die happy if I didn't go to a Super Bowl. But I got to. I've been a Braves fan since Little League.
Right.
I loved the Milwaukee Braves.
Okay.
Lou Burdett, Warren Spahn, all of those guys that were when I was in Little League. And I wanted to play for the Braves in Little League and had to play for the Giants.
You wanted that Braves hat.
I wanted the Braves hat, and I've been a Braves fan ever since. So back in the 90s when they had all of their divisional championship runs and their World Series runs and everything, I was at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium covering those games. And I told, actually, you don't ever get immune to things when it don't excite you or bother you anymore, but there are some that are so electrifying they stand out more so than others.
Yeah.
Of course, Tennessee. I've been a Tennessee fan. Like I said, I grew up in Athens, so I've been a Tennessee Vol fan since the days of Hacksaw Reynolds and Mike Lucci and Paul Newmoff and Bobby Majors and Phil Pierce that I played high school football with. Played at Tennessee. So yeah, I've been a Tennessee fan for a while, and then winning the national championship in Tempe, Arizona, I was there.
That's awesome.
That was electrifying. I have never been at a more electrifying moment in a sporting event than, and this includes UTC's national championship in Division II in 1977 in Springfield, Massachusetts, that we were televising.
Right.
In, I guess it was 96, 90, I don't remember the year, but when the Braves beat the Pirates in the last game of the National League Championship Series to get to the World Series that year, when Francisco Cabrera hit a line drive in the left field to get Sid Bream home from second base with the winning run, there was so much electricity in that place that night, and we're standing down on the sideline getting ready to go onto the field to get interviews and stuff after the game. That was the most electrifying moment.
That's awesome.
That I can ever recall. And Sid Bream, not the fastest player in the world. In fact, I laughed at a story that I heard later. Skip Carey was the voice of the Braves then on radio. Mm-hmm. Skip talked about it later, and they asked him about that whole play and about Bream being the one to do it.
Yeah.
And Skip said that Sid was so slow that when he got to third base, we took a commercial break.
It's a good joke.
And we got out of the commercial break right around the time Sid was sliding into home plate with a winning run. But that's one of those things. And another interesting story, when the Braves played the Minnesota, and I got to. I'm not saying that we were ever on first name basis and attaboy kind of guys with Jeff Blauser and Tom Glavine and John Smoltz and those guys. But when the Braves played Minnesota in the World Series, the folks at the TV station decided to send me to Minneapolis for a couple of games in the series because the Braves could actually win it that night. So I needed to be there. So they sent me by myself. I didn't have a photographer. It was nothing, just me. So I'm there to do a live shot, and I think our news that night was either Saturday or Sunday night was at 7 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. So I go in and I find the organization that we're using to do the live shot, to do the camera and everything. Okay, what are you going to do? I'm just going to stand there and talk, I guess, for a couple of minutes. I got this banter with Dave back in the studio, Dave Staley, about the game. Okay, fine. We'll do it here, and you're on in this particular slot. You'll be on this guy before you, and then it'll be another. Okay, fine, no problem. So I'm just standing around on the field, like at the batting cages, watching BP and doing nothing. I didn't know anybody in Minneapolis, never had been there.
Right.
Tom Glavine comes up and pats me on the back, says, "Hey, bud, how are things in Chattanooga?" And I'm like, "Tom, what?" He pitched like the night before, I guess.
Yeah.
So we talked a little while, and I asked Tom, I said, "What are you doing at 10 after 7? "Oh, I don't know. I'm not pitching tonight, so I guess I'll be around." "Would you do a live interview?" "Sure, I'll do that." So I get Tom Glavine that night.
That's great.
Not planned or anything else, and it's like, being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And if, some kind of, that's a familiar face, I'll go up and pat him on the back or whatever, or whether God led Tom Glavine to me at that particular point because I had said, "I don't know what I'm doing tonight, so help me out here." So I get Tom Glavine on for about 3 minutes that night, and it was great.
That's awesome.
Great, Yeah.
True professionals right there.
Yeah, I was in the right place at the right time.
There you go. All right, man. I guess we're going to wrap it up.
Gunner, thanks.
I had
Appreciate
so much fun.
So good to see you.
We'll get you back in here sometime.
Well, hey, I'm off that day, so,
You're
know.
off that day? That's awesome.
If it's not Monday or Thursday, I play golf on Monday or Thursday.
Well, today's Thursday.
But we're through by like 3 o'clock.
I got you. Did you play today?
Did not play today.
Didn't play today?
No, should
Okay.
have.
I might be the worst golfer in Chattanooga.
Well, come
I
on
can
out.
crush a baseball, can't hit a golf ball.
It's hard to move a still non-moving target.
That's true. That's true.
You can hit them if they're 90 miles an hour.
No
I'll
problem.
throw a golf ball at you.
They wouldn't want that
Throw you
problem.
a slider.
They wouldn't want that. Yeah, I'd miss it then. All right, everybody. That was episode 10, Chat with Gunner. Had a blast. Got to talk to Darrell Patterson. I haven't had a chance to do that, and I'm excited that I got to. So next week, come check us out. It'll be episode 11. Stephen Hargis is coming on from the Times Free Press. That'll be fun. We'll talk to him. Then we're going to try to – he doesn't know this yet. Then we're going to run an article in the paper about this and get this some publicity. So I'm gonna put that bug in his ear. But do me a favor. Go to YouTube. Subscribe. Hit the alert thing. Leave a comment. Share it on Facebook. Like it on Facebook. Most importantly, go to Apple Podcast. Scroll down where it says review. Leave a 5-star review. And then leave a little written section and say, this is the best podcast in Chattanooga. Because it might not be now, but it's going to be soon. Thanks for listening.